Hey everyone, welcome in. I wish people could talk back. Hey Quincy, Jesse, I'm not selling anything. Come on, you've heard this. It's sold at the highest bidder. There we go. All right. Yeah, this is a no money show for me tonight. So I am so thankful that all of you guys showed up. What I may do, I may start some giveies for the sake of timekeeping, actually, because I have what am I trying to say? Yeah, I have a plan. That's what I'm trying to say. I have a plan, and that plan is to kind of go through a guided session, and so um, I don't want to spend too much time on one subject where I'm monologuing. So I may launch giveies to help me keep time. Um, and so I appreciate all of you for showing up. Hey, Gator Jerome, not selling anything in this show. This is a new collectors club show, and Shiny Seeker. I'm good to see you. Again, not selling anything tonight. That's not the plan. I mean, we might after, if people want to, we might shift into that. But that's a gimme. Yeah, yeah. Here we go. Let's start this now. I have a 0. I'm kidding. That is not the good. All right, let me just put it on the screen. It's relevant to the conversation. I'll put that together. It's relevant to the conversation. So, here, thanks. All right. So, I it's as much of a dialogue as it can be. Um, and oh, thank you for that comment on the newsletter. Um, and yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you for the order. Um, so yeah, Gator Jerome, follow me for later. I'll be on tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. That's my normal show. So we're doing good, Bashaw. This is the new club meeting. So, so let me sort of set some ground rules just as far as cadence, things like that. I actually have specific segments that I'm going to go through. These were informed very generously by people who sent me direct messages indicating what they thought might be helpful. And then combined with kind of my observations as a seller and as a collector. So I put these together. I put it in a format. We don't have to be that strict, but I think we'll find it useful. It's dialogue as much as possible. So I will try to definitely be paying attention to the chat. I'm not selling anything, so that should be easier. But I thought we would just start, and here is where I do want to set one ground rule. Um, I will not disagree with anyone's philosophy. So this is about collection and collecting and stacking and buying and selling, and that's a personal experience. So I'm not going to disagree with anyone on that. I may disagree with facts, and that's the law school aspect of me. So that being said, my philosophy is just mine. You don't have to agree with it, but you'll hear some of it for sure. So I felt like the most important way to start was melt versus meaning. And I won't leave that little script up the whole time, or that little flash up the whole time, but that I'll introduce our segments that way. So when we talk about melt versus meaning, really what I want to do is kind of follow two thought processes tonight. And the first one being a phenomenon that we have seen in the last year. And one is silver, we all know, went parabolic up to $120 an ounce. Live selling became very popular, and there are a lot of new buyers, and maybe we're going to call them collectors, maybe not. And that's going to be a question I'm going to have to you here in like a second. But basically, the confluence of all these people meeting together, selling in real time these products, has caused this conversation to be a little confusing. And sometimes it's confusing for you guys. Sometimes it's confusing for me. And I really want to sort of start to break that down in this first section. So, the first thing I'm going to do, if I can figure this out, oh, sorry. I'm going to try to throw a poll up, but I don't know how to do that. Add a poll. There we go. Um, so, the great thing about polls is that they are anonymous, and I appreciate everyone participating in this. 1 second. And of course, I'm misspelling things. Almost done. And I have several polls I'm going to put up throughout the night. All right. So this first one, if you guys could log your answers quickly, I appreciate it. How is Eminem too loud? I turned the volume down from my normal show just to kind of keep some ambient. I'll show the story. I will share the story. All right, cool. Okay, so this is kind of what I thought it's shaping up to be, right? So predominantly people are identifying with collector. If you're in my stream, that makes sense. I don't throw a lot of bullion. Um, and and Bobby, I think you've heard my story. I also started collecting as a kid, but I love it. That story is going to be a blog post for me one day. The time I blocked a customer for good reason. All right. I could be categorized as three. Well, I'm gonna guess collector, investor, and seller. Is that right, Quincy? I know you, so that's my guess. Okay, good. So that's fine. I mean, I, I think most of the sellers here started because they like the hobby. I think the ones that didn't, that are just selling a commodity, they're not in my stream right now. So didn't really think anyone was going to click on that. All right. So cool. I'm going to dismiss this poll. Most people are identifying as collector. And then we have the next largest group being stacker. So awesome. All right. So let's start with the topic. We'll move right into like the meat and bones. Oh, I did say, sorry, I had to skip around a little bit. I did say that there were two streams of thought that I was going to go down. Um, and one is, how did silver live streaming new buyers confuse the conversation about coins? And then second, how do you, as a new collector or collector, build your own tools and taste, so you know what you actually want to collect? And that one is something I notice that I get questions in my stream. So I think a purpose is really important in this hobby. And we can talk through some of them because not all of them are right for everybody. And I've got some cool things we can walk through. So let's do the dirty talk first. How silver changed the conversation. Um, and as far as stackers and investors, fair question, Ruby guy. Could be the same. I think it's more, you know, um, the the vehicle, right? Are you seeing appreciation in this or appreciation in that? So maybe that was a trick question, but nobody really. Well, I guess we had 3 people log investors. Um, so I'm going to end that poll and collectors where we lined up. Okay, cool. Um, so our ambiguous question, our ambiguous answer. But where's that? Okay, so silver. My Genesis story started with this dime. And we all know this dime is made of 90% silver. I was 12 years old when I got this dime. And silver was not a relevant topic at that point. Merc dimes were expensive for a 12-year-old, but it's like, because my allowance is like, I don't know, I got paid like $1.50 a week for doing my chores. So got is a loose term. Oh no, Quincy, you know what? Kristen, if my sister's in the room, can you please raise your hand? We'll get this squared away, Quincy. But anyway, so it started with a Mercdine. And the fact that it had silver in it didn't really impact. They were more expensive than wheat cents, but they were more expensive because they were much more collectible. And wheat cents, the most common denomination we had, were also more prolific. And that's really what was influencing it. What happened last year, right about the time I also got onto Whatnot, but silver really started to move. And it moved in drastic ways. We went from low double digits to right about the time I started selling on Whatnot, it was at $35. And as we're rolling into December, we're seeing behavior that no longer makes sense. Hey, Meg. Hey, El Camino. How you doing? And so we roll into January, and it's $120 an ounce, and there's exuberance everywhere. I've talked a lot about how that happened, and then we saw it just fall. And what happened on that ride up was that we'd have a conversation about this quarter, and let me just ask you, when you think about this quarter right here, what is your first impression as to the value of this quarter? Put it out there. Be embarrassed, be vulnerable, put what you think the value of this is. Like, what comes to your head? Jeffrey, I think, is actually giving an honest answer. Captain Smackin's giving an honest answer. Jesse's giving an honest answer. I mean, they're all probably honest answers, but they're probably more or less informed by other sources. Daddy's birth year, $30. Okay. So right. So so just using today's numbers, so I don't know that there's a consensus there, but I saw someone give a range. Jeff gave a range of like 18 to 20, and we saw as low as 15. So just using today's numbers, the Coinflation app shows 1589. And I'm pretty sure that's why we got those ranges in that 16 to 20 or 15 to $20 range. I'm going to use a resource here that we're going to talk more about later, but I'm going to see when silver was $32 an ounce, which is 1/3 of its current value. When that was the case, gosh, of all the times to not be able to flip through a book. Um, so when silver was $32 an ounce, that's when Red Book was published for the current year. And at that time, a 1935 S in was that AU 53. Well, in AU 50, it was $38. So silver was worth $32 an ounce, and this was worth more than 38 because AU 50 was 38. And yeah, that's Red Book 2026 that I'm using. So what happened? Double-edged sword. Silver goes to 120, and what's the value of this then become? And let's just say, what's the value of any quarter, any silver quarter become? It has, in essence, two floors. And I was describing this I wasn't selling at the time, actually, but I was describing this in other streams as silver was moving, which was there are two floors. Silver has an inherent value that's in this coin, and then there's a collector value. Now we know that when silver was $32 an ounce, the collector value of this was somewhere around 38 to 42. That had nothing to do with the silver price. It wasn't impacting that collector value at all. But that changed. When silver was 120, all of a sudden, or anywhere on that path, like we're close to it now at 90, suddenly silver could potentially be the higher floor, and the higher floor mattered. And the fault, raw versus slab, that's we're gonna get into that. Arvin Fell, sorry, we're gonna get into that in later sections, but right now I really want to sort of talk about the silver confusion, because whatnot sellers, myself included, contributed to the problem. And here's how we contributed. You've got to keep in mind, we have to be able to replace whatever we sell in order to have a viable business. And as that silver floor went past the actual value of the coin in front of us, we had to enforce that floor because we couldn't replace our inventory. People didn't exactly explain that, though, in that way. So, and some sellers maybe didn't care to explain that. And so a commodity, silver, became how we priced those coins, because for the longest time, unless you were talking about a rare date, special, longest time, 2 weeks, for 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, unless you were talking about a rare Carson City or it's a really rare coin, silver was probably higher than the value of the coin. Um, well, are you testing me? I like that coin today still goes, for multi hundreds of dollars. So, um, I'm just talking generically, not the edge cases. I did address the edge cases though, right? Like if you have a stunner Carson City Morgan, silver's never impacted that price. I trust choice. What are you asking? I'm not selling anything on the show right now. I will pause to see. Oh, okay. You were okay. Got it. Yeah. This is only coin collection talking. Um, how would you address the fact that not everyone can or is willing to pay what you consider to be? Um, well, as any business, um, I'm not going to make a trade. Well, let's say I'm not going to willingly make a trade that loses me money or where I can't continue in business. So just like any negotiation, if we're too far apart, then no deal. That's how I would address that. In live selling, how does that play out? We put reserves, right? Doesn't often play out very well for us when we put reserves, especially if people are used to buck and go. Some formats, some streams, they run almost exclusively reserves, and maybe they move lower volume, but they're preserving their ability to you know buy more inventory replacement. But collecting coins can be a very expensive hobby. I mean, I have another hobby where this discussion comes up. I'm a scuba instructor, and scuba can be a very expensive hobby. It also can be a very cheap hobby, but mostly it's expensive, at least on the front side. And the front side, I would say the education is game player. But are you talking about coin collecting not being that expensive? It really is a matter of your taste. We're going to get to that too in a second. But it's really, let me just clear up the silver bit. Silver went skyrocket. Sellers said, I have to get this amount. And now that exceeds all. I mean, I even joked. You would see me, and Eric Knight would pull out his red book, and I would say, burn these pages with silver. Just burn them because they're no longer relevant. Well, that's true, because if you know if a Merc dime in this book is listed as $4, but it's worth 9, that was a real number that it was worth in silver. um I can't sell it for below 9. So on the downside, when silver starts to fall, some of what I'm going to say is theoretical and speculative, but um on the downside, people were so used now to pegging to that silver price. The Coinflation app became prolific because we were trying to explain on the way up. But on the way down, the same rule applied for a little while, but then we got way down and the same rule didn't apply. But that didn't stop this conversation of melt being everyone. Hey Josh, it's going good. No, we're actually just on the silver sections. So anyway, so this conversation around melt is frustrating for everybody, I think. And I kind of I wanted to give some examples of of like we did this test. I threw out this quarter and was graded. If I had thrown it out raw, the numbers would have been lower, I'm sure. But we were gravitating towards melt value. So I have here two dimes. There's a barber dime on the left. It's an 1898. And then is this a 1917D Merc dime? It is. It's 1917D, and this is an 1898 Philadelphia. How much is this coin worth? The 1898 barber dime. Just throw that number out there. Okay. So for the most part, we have consensus somewhere around 6 or 7. How much is this one worth? The 1917D Merc dime. They have the same silver content, 90%. I'm going to let y'all think about that. Okay, cool. Does anybody, hey, Warner Street, do you want to give me a grade on this? Just give me what you think the grade is. We can look at the bands, but based on the wear, I can tell it's probably not going to have any bands visible. Okay, so we're gonna well, I think it's better than a good. So let's go, Captain Smackin. I'm gonna go with you with very fine. So very fine 20 on that coin when silver was $32, $30. Okay. So obviously no correlation to silver cost. However, I promise if I run this coin tomorrow morning on my show, it'll go for $11 or $12 at most. I promise. I don't care what I say about this coin or what book I point at. And that is where I think silver has confused the conversation. And what I want you to know, it's still more like 30, I think. But what I want you to know is that you heard me say whatnot sellers have just as much responsibility in this as whatnot buyers. Whatnot buyers need an anchor. They need something to know where their value is. And if for nothing else, it's easier to remember that a dime is worth somewhere around $6 in silver. Right. I can't go get another 1917D when I sell this for $11. I just can't. Unless I'm lucky enough to stumble upon another streamer that just isn't out there aware of what they have. And I don't really want to run my business that way. It kind of implies I'm waiting to take advantage of somebody. So, any sort of like questions on that? From the like how I think the silver confusion happened. Red book prices were inflated. Okay, so we're going to talk about tools later, for sure. This is the third time this week I've been asked about that. I didn't like CoinSnap at first because I didn't like how it ID'd it. But I think the sample screenshot I was given earlier this week, which was a barber half, I thought its price was already in range. I thought it was good. You've been spending more when people put it in a holder and have a price point target. So great point, Jesse. That's actually Harvard Business School teaches that concept, right? Anchoring, to go ahead and put a price point. And I'm I'm actually in the process of doing just that. Um, there's a seller in the room that does that for every single one of their coins. And I've spoken freely to them that I admire that. I do think it helps, it helps give you guys an instant view of like, okay, this is where this deal range is going to be. And then the other thing too is that I have to get it right, right? If I put my price on there and I say this 1917D is worth $200 when Red Book, and we're going to say maybe I overgraded it, but $30. Well, you're going to not stick around with me too long. So I think it's a good practice. It's a lot of work, but it's good practice. Um, but I have boxes of flips just waiting to be priced. So if you're in my show normally, you normally see me hang these out, and in the last day or so you've seen almost every coin has been flipped. What do I use to grade my coins? Several different resources. I've also participated in various grading classes from the ANA. PCGS also sometimes has some resources. But basically, there are rules around each of the coin types. So I, I'm not going to compare the two. I'm going to acknowledge they both exist. And yeah, ANA does. ANA has a boot camp coming up right now, actually. If you're a member of ANA, they have it's virtual, and you can participate in their grading classes. Quincy, I think a lot of people, the problem also lies with there's many uneducated sellers as there are uneducated buyers. Yeah. Um, I also think there are a lot of folks that maybe are sellers on here because they got overextended when silver went to 120, and there may be some desperation out there. I think that's a short-term problem. I hope it is. Um, so yeah. Well, Keith, that's great. And Bobby, I love that you're reading ANA books and Mega Red. Absolutely. Um, so that's gonna. This isn't. Let me see. Let me move to. I talked about live selling amplifying this confusion. There's a couple things. Y'all remember the Mr. Beast show? Well, despite the rumors, I am not Felipe and I did not win the Lamborghini. But the point of that show was to draw attention to whatnot and get more viewers. So that worked. Um, and this comes my next poll. There we go. How long have you been buying on Whatnot? Yeah, it was. The rooms were empty. Enjoy the trail. I did have multiple devices up because I did want to learn. I wanted to learn. I wanted to win the Lamborghini. Actually, I wanted the e-motorcycle more. Okay, so we've got a pretty even split. And the 1 to 3 month folks, I'm so glad you're here because unless you were collecting coins seriously before you met Whatnot, this is all got to be chaos for you guys. That's just my that's how I feel like it is. Um there's rapid fire, there's urgency everywhere. And you obviously have everybody's slinging this, and then you see these huge price discrepancies, which is all about energy and urgency. um and and so yeah, so welcome to live selling. And and I started my show to be much more low key. That's to my disadvantage mostly, but I like what I'm doing. And I like it. I like having the conversations. I really don't sell this on my show. I have it, but I don't really sell this on my show. I love these. I love this. If y'all know me, y'all know I love this. So, um, so anyway, that being said, um, the method of selling changed everything. Um, and so I'm gonna start a giveaway. You guys can hop into that. Y'all have been listening to me long enough. Y'all deserve a giveaway. I take time to sometimes I appreciate that, Jeff. Sometimes I feel like I don't explain enough, and time is the issue. Um oh, so the games I should how can I leave that out? The games confuse a lot. And while a lot of the things I'm going to say are going to sound like criticisms, they aren't. But what happens is the gaming is gambling, straightforward, right? Like everyone can see it. No one's confused by that, right? um and yeah, it's 100% gambling. I'm not. I Yeah. So Shiny Captain Smackin, Shiny Seeker agrees with you. Um, so so that was actually my introduction to Whatnot, were gaming rooms. And no, I know I'm saying wordy dirds, but we all agree the concept is you bet money hoping on the result, right? And the result is not a sure thing. Um, I'm not criticizing the gaming. I'm well known in the game rooms. Um, what I'm saying is when you switch out of the gaming room to an item in hand room, what do you know? You know, these coins. That's what you know. And you have no idea how to price these, with the exception of that's pure silver and that's pure gold, which may be fine in the context of the gold one, probably fine. But you, if you own one, you probably spent 3 times, 4 times uh, what they're worth to get it. But you had fun, right? Doing it. It was what you want to do. But then when faced with the proposition of paying what its market value is, your market value goes down. And that's a weird psychology that I don't completely understand. And I've suffered from it myself. Um, so, yeah, it's exactly it. Maybe that's the explanation. That doesn't give me dopamine, except actually auctions do, right? Auctions trigger our dopamine too. We've all seen experiences in item and hand auctions when there's a pissing match in the auction, and we all sit back. If we're not part of it, we enjoy it, and if we are part of it, we're energized. We're almost taking it personal, you know. And so, anyway, saw this guy spend over to get 1 ounce of gold. Exactly. Yes. So that is why, whether or not I'm allowed to say, okay, it's adjacent to the same behavior of gambling. The odds are against you. It's going to be expensive for you to hit those odds. And there you go. But then you walk into an item in hand room, that psychology of not just straight out buying it, I don't get. I have the same weird story. Dave and Buster's, you know how they give you the tickets? And I've never cashed mine in, and they last forever. But it's I always look at it, I'm like, well, that PlayStation is not worth 400,000 tickets, because that just seems like a lot. So I never spend them because the value doesn't seem right. But I definitely go in skee ball and try to rack up as many tickets as I can. So anyway, all right. So we're gonna stop out talking about the games because gambling adjacent. we can coin that. So let's go on to the next section. Congrats. Oh, who won? Who won? Oh, I got something. Now I'm suddenly feel like I'm Justin. Good grab. All right. So while we transition into the next section, which I got to click over here. There we go. I think this is it. Nope, we did this. This is it. All righty. So while y'all were away, I pulled out 3 of my favorite books. Really quickly, this book people are less familiar with, but it is essentially an abridged version of the Red Book. I find this a little bit easier to not flip through quickly, but if I let me say portably flip through quickly. The Red Book. Now, we already know there's some controversy because there was a question about Red Book versus Gray Sheet. Give it back, Justin. Was he not paying class? You weren't even watching? Oh, he was listening. It's a podcast. It's fine. All right. So Red Book versus Gray Sheet. I don't care yet to address that. First, what I want to talk about with Red Book is this right here. Okay? This tells you what you need to know about the basic design of the coin. Yes, you and the history of the coin. Yes, you could Google all that, but you also have it sitting here for all of these types. And some of these types, some people in this room have never, maybe they've seen them on screen, but they haven't bought one. And why haven't they? I don't know. That's a personal thing. But one reason I believe surely exist is that they don't know anything about them. And then we get into the Washington quarters, which we know the silver demarcation dates, right? But then we started transitioning in modern times to a new version. And now this year, there's no Washington at all. And all of that's covered by Redbook. So, super helpful. The other thing that I think is super helpful is for it to point out the mintages, obviously the years they were produced, but then as well, it does a pretty good job of pointing out varieties. And those are all important when we start talking about not silver. We start talking about numismatics. And so Redbook is this really good, dense, and pretty much complete reference. And then you even get into like the commemorative classics. If you don't collect them, you've certainly heard people talk about them. And the history here is, is great. Um, this is a quick index of them, and then here they are, right? And these, as you know, can be very, very pricey. And why it's, mintages, right? Like super low. There we go. Oh, I have that one sitting right here.